to the Kim B. Davis Show. Here we'll talk to the leaders in technology, culture, business, and the arts. We'll cover politics, advocacy, motherhood, writing, mental health, and mostly we'll focus on hope. Join Kim B. Davis, author, playwright, radio personality, event consultant, professional speaker on the Kim B. Davis Show. Good evening and welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. I'm your host, Kim B. Davis, and this evening we have one of our favorite interviewees that comes on and talks with us, and that's Mr. Eric Harp. He is our certified professional fitness trainer. Good evening, Mr. Harp. How are you?
I am doing just fine. Ms. Davis, how are you?
I'm great. So tonight we are talking about exercising and getting back into shape after an injury. So, but you know how we do. Before we start, we got to talk about some of the things that are going around. And because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, got to talk about mental awareness for a minute. So, you know, last month, it doesn't even seem like it's been that long since we've seen or heard the Derek Chauvin guilty verdict. It seems like every day since then, there has been another video of some type of police violence and someone has died. Eric, can you make this make sense? I mean, and how are you as an African American dealing with this as a man?
Well, not just as an African American man, but as a father
Right.
of an African American man.
Yes.
Father of an African American boy.
Yes.
Who's now becoming a man.
Mm-hmm.
These things are atrocious and they're scary. To tell you the truth, you know, it's hard to cope. It's hard, you know, it's there's no one way. There is no magic way. Just pray.
Mm-hmm.
Pray, rely on the good things that we instill into our children. But it's truly depressing. And to find out there's a video everywhere you look.
Yes.
You know, but police have body cameras, so that makes sense that there's video. Mm-hmm. However, the recent case of and with so many things going on right now, I'm names right now just escaping me, but the family of the mentally ill young man who was in a cell. The police were trying to get him out, and he didn't follow their orders to the way that they wanted him to follow their orders.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they opened up this food slot, and they pepper sprayed him.
Mm-hmm.
And just pepper sprayed him and continued to yell at him. Then they tased him.
Mm-hmm.
Then they tased him as they opened the door.
Mm-hmm.
And they killed him. All of that, just to get him out of his cell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, he was having a mental episode. I don't want to specifically say because I don't know all the details. I don't know if it was a breakdown, if he was schizophrenic, or if he was coming off of some substance or whatever it was. But his family had said that he had mental issues.
Whatever issues he may have had, we can label it defiant.
Mm-hmm.
None of that was worth being killed.
Absolutely.
That man did nothing to warrant losing his life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Was probably in the cell for something that didn't deserve being in the cell for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But
sometimes these are the things that being African American, you know, comes with. It's not a badge of honor. It's not a plea for a plea for some kind of mercy. Well, we are a plea for mercy. Please let me rephrase that.
Mm-hmm.
It is a plea for mercy, but it's not a plea for um, ah, the word escapes me, but I'm not looking for um, anyone to treat me any special.
Right.
To treat me like uh, not looking for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just treat me with dignity. Treat me as a person. Treat me as the way that the Constitution says.
Yes.
you know, you know, that each man, each individual, treats like that.
Right.
Now, however, that's not the case. What is, and now we can't even get it into schools.
Mm-hmm.
Ask anybody, what is critical race theory?
Mm-hmm.
Ask anybody. I don't know.
Right.
And those that do know, really, what do you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Critical race theory. And they say, watch out, watch out.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It seems to me once you give something three letters, once you give 3 letter acronym, now it's a monster.
Mm-hmm.
The Black Lives Matter movement became BLM. BLM is a monster.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, critical race theory is called CRT. CRT, watch out for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And NAACP, woo,
Mm-hmm.
watch out for those letters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so these things become monsters. These things becomes monsters that seem to scare people.
Mm-hmm.
And 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 then here we are. And it's sad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right.
It is
Um
it is sad, and we're laughing because to keep from crying,
there
you have to laugh because at a certain point, it just y- you become not, and I don't want to say desensitized in the way that you don't care, but it becomes so much a part of our normal reality of what we face every day. When we talk about the talk, people say Black people have to have a talk with their children. Like, you don't understand. It's not just about where people say, oh, when you leave this house, you represent this family. So don't go out and act crazy or do anything like that because you're going to embarrass us. No, we have to, okay. It would
with a
be
backhand.
exactly, exactly. It would be great if that's all we had to say, but we have to say when you go into a store, make sure that your hands are visible. If you pick up something, it has to be visible at all times. A friend of mine recounted a story where he was with his son, and his son was struggling. He had several things in his hand. He was struggling. They were going to pay for it. It wasn't like he was going to run out of the store and not pay for it. His father was with him, but he put something in his pocket because he didn't have anywhere else to hold it. And his father had to tell him, "Don't do that because if you don't take this out of your pocket, it's going to cause trouble for us." And he said, "But we're right here and we're going to the counter." He says, "No, no. People will think you are trying to steal something, even if, as we all know, it's just a package of Skittles and an iced tea." You know, we talk about the differences, and you talk about being treated fairly and being treated as a human being. We see the distinctions all the time, and I use that word intentionally because when the majority folk are pulled over, you can be white, you can have a knife, you can have a gun, you can have just killed 10, 12 people, as in Dylan Roof, and they walked him to a restaurant, got him a meal. And I understand that's police technique, that they wanted to make sure he was comfortable so they could get him to talk. But I thought, But you do that. But we have Black kids who are in school who can have a weapon and not have shot up the school. But because a police officer pulls them over for whatever reason and says, oh, he has a weapon. And the next thing you know, he's shot and bleeding on the floor. Meanwhile, other kids have just shot up 20 people in the school and you got bodies everywhere. And either they kill themselves or they get arrested. You have people who have brandished knives at police officers, threaten them. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to do this. And miraculously, Mr. Harp, they end up in handcuffs in the back of a car. And somebody
Well,
say they were having a mental episode. But let it be an African American person or someone of color, and it typically ends differently. In the case of Antonio Brown out of North Carolina, who,
come
and
on,
I don't really
come
understand,
on,
right, what
come
happened
on.
with him, but from what I understand, he was in his vehicle. They were trying to serve him a warrant. And, I'm sure lots of people who are served warrants would like to, escape or flee or what have you. And from what I understand, he was trying to get away from the police and they shot and killed him. And they said because he was trying to run the police over. The family is disputing it, the community is disputing it, but the police are standing behind it.
Okay. All right. I'd like to just, I'm rubbing my hands together for this. I mean, this systemically, systemically, okay, and it goes deeper. All right. Now, the losing a life.
Mm-hmm.
Here again, the tactics of military style. And we've witnessed this with the Breonna Taylor case. We witnessed this with other cases. The tactics of some of these police just to serve a warrant
Right. Mm-hmm.
are the same thing that they're doing overseas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
in hostile territories. So this is their approach. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
So they already come hyped, amped, ready to do. Rah, rah.
Mm-hmm.
If that person makes any move, light them up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, in the case of this person who's getting away, uses what he has in his vehicle to back up and get away.
Mm-hmm.
The body camera, well, they haven't released all of it. So let's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
make that footnote here
Mm-hmm.
that your Kimberly B. Davis show has verified all of the footage.
Correct.
Um, however, from the small footage that they have, that they have released, is that the man was backing up.
Mm-hmm.
An officer reaches for the car like, oh, stop.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And the driver's now at fault for putting the officer in danger.
That's right. That is the narrative.
And that's what the DA said.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
let's get that clear. The DA publicly said because the officer's life was put in danger, he felt that the killing was justified.
Yes. Yes.
The DA said this.
Mm-hmm.
The DA ran the investigation.
Mm-hmm.
For those that don't understand, the district attorney
Mm-hmm.
who was elected to this office
Mm-hmm.
ran this investigation.
Mm-hmm.
This district attorney has his office in the same building as those same police. So where's this? I mean, where is the fairness here?
Right.
The DA might as well have been wearing the same badge and uniform recording the thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because that DA and the DA's office is going to go ahead and back those officers. They're right down the hall.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They sit there and have lunch together. They call each other by name. Listen, I don't know how big this little spot in North Carolina is, but I'm sure it's not, the bustling police department where the DA has the office right next to the guys.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there needs to be some kind of independent
Investigation.
investigation.
Mm-hmm.
There needs to be some impartial eyes looking at all of this,
Mm-hmm.
because the family now gets nothing.
Mm-hmm.
The officers are justified in killing this guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jacob Blake, got a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. But not
Okay.
enough to really
I mean,
change.
there's no amount of money that you can put on a life that you can say, hey, here's to replace your child.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They release how much money a Jacob Blake got right before George Floyd. They release these things and they say, don't do that. It's inflammatory. It'll
Taint the jury.
it'll
The jury.
take the jury to
Mm-hmm.
make them think that someone's life is worth so much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now here we are trying to say this person's life was nothing. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, it was his fault for trying to get away.
Mm-hmm.
And how is that a crime?
Mm-hmm.
That's why we get shot in the back.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, scratching both my temples because it's like, how do you how does anybody come out of this sane?
Mm-hmm.
You
There
know, it's
and you're absolutely right. And I always reflect on this article that I read when I first had my oldest son, who is approaching teenagehood. And one of the things that the writer said in that, I have a black son. He can never run in his neighborhood. And we live in a majority white community. She said, because him running as a child, like kids do, someone will see that and think, oh, he's up to no good.
he's up to no good. He's running from something.
Yes. And all it could be is him and his little friends are playing tag or
Mhm.
superheroes or cops and robbers, whatever it
Maybe
is.
he's late. Maybe he has to be home by a certain time and he's late.
Exactly, exactly. He's like, I gotta get home. But someone will mistake it and say that he's doing something wrong. And so, in a nutshell, for people that aren't of color, these are the conversations that we have to have with our kids. Don't wear a hoodie. Don't put a hood up. Even though it might be cold, you need to wear a hat, because if you don't, there's a perception that because you have on a hood, you are up to no good. There have been cases. There was a young man someplace not in Michigan, and he was walking home and didn't have a coat. And the police were saying, well, what are you doing? And all it was, he didn't have a coat. He was like, I can't afford it. He was coming home from school. He's like, I'm going home. And they harassed him until they realized, oh, he really is going home. And he just didn't have a coat. So we don't see the
That's
stories.
traumatizing.
Absolutely.
That's traumatizing.
So we don't see the stories where the police officer pulls over the woman and realizes that she has no food for her child, or she doesn't have a baby carrier that's the proper size or what she should have. And so we see those stories where police will go and say, well, I saw she didn't have food, so I went to the grocery store and I bought her food, or I got her a baby carrier, or whatever. What we don't see those stories.
See those now those and those acts of goodwill. Those acts of goodwill would be great.
Mhm,
Now it sometimes it perpetuates the depression, the sadness, the bondage.
mhm,
It perpetuates for both races. It perpetuates it by keeping us in the news. Now it's a double-edged sword. Don't please,
mhm,
as we navigate this, it's a double-edged sword. We need honesty, transparency.
mhm,
We need it. um, but the way it's glorified, and then the way it's neglected. Oh,
Absolutely.
it's glorified. And then move to the side.
Mm-hmm.
Now, our news cycle and our news cycles, the way that they work, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that we can just swipe, swipe to the left, swipe to the right,
Mm-hmm.
and that type of attitude. Sometimes I hear the word is cancel culture. Cancel culture.
Mm-hmm.
We've gotten stuck with these two words, and now we done misused cancel culture. We use it for our benefits.
Mm-hmm.
We get stuck on the cliches.
Mm-hmm.
But let's wrap all of this, what we're just talking about. Right now, we are in the midst of releasing your mask.
Mm-hmm.
If you are vaccinated, you are free to now take your mask off inside and out.
Mm-hmm.
And we ask the non-vaccinated to please be honest and
Okay.
keep your mask on. I'm like, woo!
What was
We
January
did,
6th? What was
we done.
January 6th?
So now what's gonna happen?
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna have to, there's gonna be some places, somewhere where you're gonna have to step up and verify.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's many people who don't get it. There's many people who refuse to get this vaccination.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now people of color, um, as reports are saying, is the numbers are showing, um, there's a lot of skepticism and a lot of refusal to get this vaccination.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, there's numbers and statistics amongst all races of those who, for whatever reasons, are resisting getting this vaccination. So what about those folks?
Right.
Because they blend right into the other folks.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, you're going to have to carry around your card. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to have to find a way to show your card.
Mm-hmm.
Now what? People are going to start faking IDs and forging IDs. I mean, it's going to be some horrible stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
And in the name of what?
Right.
you
Absolutely.
know,
Mm-hmm.
because if you don't have it, listen, and if you're black and you don't have it, now what? What kind of oppression does that bring?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you're white and you don't have it, well, what kind of
Mm-hmm.
slide bys? There's questions.
Mm-hmm.
Does it even the playing field? Because there's many people based on your religion, based on people's religion, based on people's uh, science, belief in science, based on people's whatever it might be, that they don't get this vaccination.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No. And so does this mean the vaccinated and the no and the those who don't, no matter what race you are?
Right.
you
Right.
know, because it's amazing how it's about to change. And now with the police involved, and what are they going to do? How are they going to police it? How
Mm-hmm.
are they going to come about who's vaccinated and who's not vaccinated and dealing with this situation and that situation?
Mm-hmm. And that's what worries me more than anything is that you're going someplace and someone will say, now you have to prove, and they won't like what you have. I personally have my card. I have a picture of my card in my phone. And so I'm not
Okay.
necessarily carry it with me everywhere. However, I'm still going to wear my mask. But, we've had people who have attacked other people and said you shouldn't wear masks. We've had national media people say it's child abuse. If you see a kid wearing a mask, you need to call Child Protective Services. Then you have people who walk into business establishments, and because businesses, depending on if they're privately owned or publicly owned, can make a declaration and say, well, you have to wear a mask, but because mask mandates are changing, some people may some companies may decide to continue to do that, others may not. So what
Yeah.
happens when you walk into one that says, oh, you still have to wear a mask? And if regardless as the color is the enforcement, as you said, going to be more heavy-handed because it's a person of color, or will it be less severe because it's a majority person? These are all kinds of questions, and we've had situations where people have done different types of behaviors. We had someone in Michigan who tried to shoot at a security person who told them they couldn't come in because they didn't have a mask. They
Right.
person. And I don't remember hearing police, arresting anybody. But, these are the things that we're concerned about when we
Well,
talk about
at
police.
what point do people consider infringement of your civil rights?
Yes.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
you know, at what point? You know, I know that the attitude of many people is less government, less government involvement, however they want to put it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
This is government involvement.
Mm-hmm.
CDC tells you to do something, do it.
Right.
No, but of course, there's people who can't be told what to do.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't tell them what to do. You're not my mother. You're not my father. You're not my boss. You're not my whatever. So you can't tell me what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, of course, we can go back, the many months ago, not so many, but the months ago of January 6th,
Mm-hmm.
couldn't tell those people what to do.
Sure couldn't.
And they weren't going to listen to anybody else except the one guy.
Mm-hmm.
And they still listening to him.
They still are. And the intelligence reports that came out afterwards were talking about how intelligence and law enforcement was focused on other groups instead of those particular groups that stormed the Capitol. And I thought, wow. So here it is again, glaring in front of us, and we're still in denial.
I just heard recently that what? It was a peaceful protest, or these people was like a picnic. You
Right.
know,
I'm like, do you remember what happened? Because that's not what I saw.
I mean, they were just here. They were just here for a friendly visit.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah.
So, I mean,
Close
listen. You got,
memory.
you got some of everybody, and you got nothing but opinions.
Right. And
you know,
hindsight is 2020.
so I just wish that there was some way. Of course, I mean, wish for peace on earth.
Right.
But as we get closer to this pandemonium, you know, um, I just hope that there's somebody with a cool head that can emerge, you know. And I know that that's hard to ask for
Mhm.
because there's going to be people emerging from all over the place,
Yeah.
social media and everybody and everywhere.
Mhm.
But, you know, someone that could reach this upper echelon of stupidity.
Mhm.
Uh, because these Marjorie Taylor Greens screaming through some mail slots, you got the hyphenated name screaming at another hyphenated name for having a hyphenated name.
It's incredible, just the sheer ignorance of it all. But I got to pivot because we are still talking about mental health, but now I want to talk a little bit about physical health.
Okay.
And so
Yes.
we are opening back up, as you said. And so lots of people are feeling a little bit of anxiety because they can go to gyms and some want to wear masks and some don't.
Exactly.
Outside of that, for people who are struggling with injuries, because maybe because you were in your home for over a year, you decided, you know what? I haven't been able to get that work done on my foot. So I'm getting the work done on my foot now. I have time. I'm going to be at home. I'm going to sit down. maybe you pulled a hamstring trying to do too much at home and and it's a bad pull, or maybe you did something to your back and now you're like, oh, I was sitting wrong all those months during the pandemic trying to work and now my back is all out of whack. What are some things, Mr. Harp, that people can do for each of those areas? And can we start with the back first?
Well, first off, shout out to all the specialized doctors and to all those with injuries. Try to go see those specialized doctors. Uh, Go see a doctor. Get a wellness check. Um, Always find out where you are. Find out where your blood pressure is. Find out your vitals. Um, Health is way more than what the scale says. Um, Now, injuries. I myself am recovering from an injury, so I know a little bit about this. I broke a toe. Woo, broke a toe years ago, jogging, stubbed my toe, running on the concrete, hurt like crazy. But I just chalked it off as I stubbed my toe.
Mhm.
But it hurt for a very long time, way too long for a natural stub toe. So I went to the doctor. The doctor told me I broke it. But the doctor told me in a situation like this, they don't do anything, let the toe heal. So the toe healed. Over the years, every time it rained or got cold, oh, arthritis.
Mhm.
Ooh, that word. I'm thinking that's like a old person's disease type of thing.
Right.
No, arthritis gets in there in the crevices of your bone. Ooh, was killing me.
Mhm.
So I took the time to get that repaired. And I'm going through it. Did not know how special that big toe was
Mm.
for almost every movement I have to do, for every contact point that my foot makes. Oh, anyway, big toe, big pain.
Mhm.
So as I'm going through it right now, it's been weeks, and I just started being able to put a shoe back on. But the pressure, got to deal with that. It's going to take many months.
Mhm.
Um, in fact, just got my sutures out. Now I see the light at the end of the tunnel. But for those that are like myself, listen to your doctors. Listen to your doctors. Don't rush it. Okay? Take the time. Come back slow. It's worth taking that time now for a lifetime of benefits. It's worth taking that little time right now to slow it down so that you can pick it back up. Okay? Come with that attitude.
Mhm.
And there's
Mhm.
many times where we get discouraged or we get anxious and want to hurry up the process. Um, I'm athletic, so on my feet, I want to move, I want to jump, I want to bounce around, but my foot doesn't want to let me. And I pray right now nobody tries to chase me. I can walk really good. I look like I'm back to normal, but don't chase me because I probably can't run. Uh, but there are many people who come back from injuries way too soon.
Mhm.
Okay, try to come back with have patience.
Mhm.
Now, seeing a doctor and a specialist would be the best thing. Than to go by, I read something on the internet that said, see a specialist. You're dealing with back, you're dealing with anything in the back, go see a doctor.
Okay.
Okay. It will behoove you to do so. Okay. Shoulder injuries, rotator cuff. If you're not able to lift your elbow to a certain height, you're not able to go around, those are shoulder injuries. And you definitely want to get those checked out. You want to be able to reach above your head. All right. Um, and sometimes when we find out when we can't do something, how important it is.
Mhm.
Many of us go through small aches and pains and we say, I'm tough. I can do this. I'll get through this.
Mhm.
And then sometimes we realize how bad it was once we realize what we can't do anymore.
Mhm.
So you know. But I know it's also a tall task. This is in the time of a pandemic, so it's hard to say, just go to a doctor. Just go to a doctor. Not all of our insurances are in the right place. Not all of us can get appointments or face-to-face. We deal with teledocs and viral doctors. My best advice would be to see the best doctor that you can to find out what that injury is and how best to proceed from it. Now, once you're healed from the injury or healing, the doctor says you're able to come back to the gym, take it slow. Take it slow. Someone like myself would rather see you keep coming than to see you come in a couple of times and hurt yourself again. But take it slow. Listen to your doc. That's the best I got for you. Listen to your doctor.
That was great. So here's one of my questions. So when people, so say you have a foot injury like yourself, and you are an active person, and you say, you know what, I know I need to rest my foot, but there some other things that I can do, like chair exercises? Are there things that you can do on the floor? Can you give us some examples of what those would be?
Well, I'm glad that you asked. Now, it would be great for everyone in their physical journey to know their bodies enough to know what they can do while they're injured. So if you can't use your right arm, and how you can use your left, how you can work some leg exercises while not straining an arm. I would love for everyone to be knowledgeable in that respect. Now, your back is such a major part of your body that most everything is going to come through your back. So bending over, lifting, and things of that nature, I would not recommend any workouts. Okay. Now, if your knees are sore, there's some things that I could recommend in the water. Okay. I recommend those who can't run too well on land. If you have a pool available, get in that water and run. That buoyancy of the water will help you to run, and the contact on the bottom of the pool will help you propel yourself. Run. There's resistance in that buoyancy, so now it's a little more difficult to run. You might start sweating in the water like, "Whoo, that was tough." If there's a pool available, aquatics are very good with injuries. It's very soft on the joints, the impact. Also, the movements of swimming, the strokes of swimming allow you to stretch your body out. For those that have a pool available, those are great. Resistance bands. Resistance bands take the place of weights. You can add and reduce the resistance based on how tight the band is or where you step and contact the band. You can tie it to door knobs. You can place it in between door jambs so that you can use the resistance in different exercises. So resistance bands are very good. You can use them at home, very space efficient. So those are great exercises to be done. Again, different parts of the body will require different things, but body weight exercises when you don't need weights. If you can just squat, work those legs. If you have an arm injury, do some squats, do some lunges, work on your balance. Okay. Stand on one leg and lift your knee up and just work on your balance. These type of things are good for the core, the abs, the rib cage, the lower back. All of these things will help stabilize the body.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. Okay, so now here is my last question, but it's the most important question. What makes a good trainer? Because we can all say, well, we'll go and see Mr. Harp. But for those that are not in Michigan, what should you look for in a trainer, or can anyone be a trainer? And I know you have to have
Well,
certification and all of that, but what makes a good trainer?
well, to be good at anything, you'd have to have a passion or a love for it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, now, personality is good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that the ability to listen. Tell me what it is you want.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are many trainers who say, "I know exactly how to do it. Come work with me, and I'll get you where you're going to go. Here's the price. Bam, bam, bam," and have a direction for you. Now, there's many trainers. There's many specialized trainers. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but someone who works with clients or attracting clientele,
Mm-hmm.
listening, and just being honest with the process.
Okay.
Being honest with the process. Nothing's going to happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try to manage expectations.
Good point. Good point. And so, when you're managing expectations, do you oftentimes meet people who fall for the quick weight loss schemes and then get frustrated? How do you motivate people to stay?
Well, definitely, definitely. Health is not determined by the numbers on the scale.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I know that we get stuck into this image of beauty that is determined by the numbers on the scale.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not necessarily what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, our bodies fluctuate. Our bodies are individuals. And, we all have the capabilities to change our bodies and to change the shapes of our bodies. It takes hard work, but we all have that ability. And so the biggest muscle is right here. You know, that's the hardest muscle to work.
Mm-hmm.
And but once you start working this one here, everything else falls in line. You know, and we're all results driven.
Mm-hmm.
So once you start seeing results, you want more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Once you start seeing results, all things are possible. Oh, well, what else can we do?
Right.
And so the confidence that comes from working out, the confidence that comes from finding out that you can do it. Sometimes, you know, sometimes a teacher teaches, sometimes a student teaches a teacher. And it's a great process because everybody's an individual, and seeing the results and seeing that light bulb turn on of, oh, I didn't know this.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about.
And that is a great way to end our show. Thank you, Mr. Harp, for coming on the Kim B. Davis Show. Tell us how we can find you and where you are on social media.
Well, ericharb9@gmail.com, ESQ360 on all your platforms. Come and find me. All right. And Ms. Davis, as always, love being on your show.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We so appreciate you being on the Kim B. Davis Show. We'll look forward to you next month with another fascinating topic on fitness and nutrition.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Kim B. Davis Show. I'm your host, Kim B. Davis. Thank you. You know, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat, TikTok at Kimberly Bachelor Davis. And Bachelor is spelled Batchelor. You can find out more about me as an author on kimbdavis.com. You can see this show at youtube.com/Kimberly Bachelor Davis. And you can also listen in on Apple, Spotify, Google, and Stitcher. Thank you again for tuning in. And as always, remember, be magnificent.